Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lucore Automotive. Today, we're starting another project. Well, sort of. We're starting an engine build for a vehicle we don't actually own at the moment. It's going to be a truck, I think, probably. It's going to be a Mopar. And it's going to be running that motor. Well, kind of. So this is the 1973 400 cubic inch Big Block Mopar, which a lot of you probably have never heard of, but think the 383 Mopars, but during the smog era. So it's the very, very end of the B Series Big Block Mopars. This is the one that actually came out of 73 Charger Katrina's 1973 Charger, and the purple motor is the one that's going to be replacing this. But we ran into some complications on the original build with that motor. The original engine builder, who no longer works at the shop that it was originally built at, didn't do things exactly correct, and we kind of hobbled that 451 Mopar. And we've been in contact with the owner of that business for quite a while about wanting to kind of, I wouldn't say right the wrongs, but clear the air and show exactly what those heads are capable of doing when they are set up correctly. So, with that said, we are actually going to start doing another Big Block Mopar stroker build. This is going to end up being a 499 cubic inch motor. Holy cow. And we are going to still run those motorhome heads that you guys originally saw on the 451 that refused to flow air. Because, A, I already paid a bunch of money to get those heads fixed. B, I want to prove to you guys and to myself that those heads are truly capable of what I think they're capable of. But in order to do that, first, I actually need to take these stock heads off this motor and take them over to Rob over at PRI. And we need to do some comparison, and we can do some conversation about what's going on, what he found, what was wrong, what was good, what was bad, and what needs to be done to get us back up in business. So, step one, I'm going to pull these heads off this motor, and we're going to go over see Rob at PRI, and we're going to start building a 450 or a 499 Mopar for a vehicle that we don't own yet. You thought my bad decisions were limited to vehicles. I don't even own one yet. Still making bad decisions. Stick around. Should be interesting. So as I said, 400 cubic inch Big Block Mopar. Not in any way what people would typically build a performance motor out of, but that's something we like to do. Now, this is also going to serve two purposes. One, I actually need the accessory drive off of this and all the accessories off this to put on the purple motor, the 451 Mopar stroker that is replacing this one, because we're going to reuse all of our accessories. So I'll start moving all that stuff over, I'll pull it all off and clean it. But for today's purposes, I just got to pull off the heads. Intake manifold and carburetor have already been removed. So this should be a pretty simple process. I've just got to pull off the valley pan here, pull off the valve covers, bing, bang, boom, pull these heads off, and then we'll go on over to see Rob. It's definitely gross. It's definitely disgusting. It had a rebuild, which basically I believe was pretty much just spray paint. It was very tired and not nearly as capable as we were hoping it would be. But it's a great platform, and it should have some pretty much stock heads underneath these valve covers. So let me shut up, start pulling some things apart.
Get your heads off, or
yeah. Which should be a pretty quick little process. And I'm sure I'll make a mess, because that's what I do. Huh. Apparently, that chain was either cut or broken. One of the two. Looks like it was cut. It's funny. I'm actually definitely a Pontiac guy. I'm also apparently an AMC guy. But having never really experienced the Big Block Mopar thing before, I gotta say, I am impressed. I didn't really realize the potential that was in that 451 and how badly we cheated it on the Big Block Wars video. If you guys haven't watched that, go back and watch it. It'll give you some kind of a primer, I guess, as to what we're getting ourselves involved in here. That was a essentially all iron-headed Big Block shootout that all had 451 to 455 cubic inches of space. And the Mopar did pretty well, but it didn't shine as much as we thought it would, and we know now why that is. But even with it running not as great as it could, if it went through the rev range, the power level it made for what it is and for what we had invested in it was pretty impressive. I'm very, very interested to see what a 499 cubic inch iron-headed setup one of these things is going to cost, or gonna produce. I think it's going to be amazing. It's going to make boatloads of torque because it's almost 500 cubic inches, obviously. But it'll be interesting to see what it can make as far as RPMs and making horse purrs. So anyway, Valley Pan is basically, it's got two little tie-down bars, which are these guys here. One in the front, one in the rear. 3 7/16 bolts that are holding it down. I'm going to pry that back up. Obviously, you can see this thing has been destroyed because it was RTV'd down. So we're going to pull all that off, and then pull our valve covers, then pull head bolts. That's it. Simple, easy stuff. I'm only going to get slightly disgusting today. Shaft mounted rockers. No big deal. Brand new Felpro valve cover gaskets. This motor was a decent little runner. It wasn't bad, but it's a stock camshaft, low compression, stock. We put a 4-barrel carburetor on it and an intake manifold on it, and it ran reasonably decent. But it was out of breath at like $4,000, and it had electrical issues. It had a bunch of different issues all the time. So that's what ended up making us build the 451. It has tons and tons of potential for sure. The Big Block Mopar platform, for all you Big Block Mopar people, has an obscene amounts of performance that are available that you can unlock out of these things, and they're not real complicated. So we're gonna do that.
Bolts go in bags. Otherwise you spend bunches of money on bolts.
Shaft mounted rockers out. Pull of our push rods out. Now we have never actually been down to this level on this motor. The limits of what we did on this were valve covers, the distributor, intake manifold, and carburetor. So there's definitely going to be some things that we're going to find, I'm sure, with this diagnostic teardown that we're going to learn. It did, like I said, it did okay. It just wasn't, it was a smog era Big Block. Wasn't very exciting. So we're going to leave all this stuff on here. We're not going to take any more disassembly out of the heads. We just got head bolts we got to bust loose, which is a bunch of head bolts. And on that side, I got to be able to take the alternator out because all this bracketry is bolted to that head. Video of all of that, how it goes together, so we can put it back together the way it comes apart. It's got a new water pump on it. Otherwise, it's pretty much stock 1973 worn out stuff. Let's get these head bolts loose and get these heads, or get that head off, and then probably pour stuff all over my feet. Come on, you piece of shit. There we go. Sometimes you just gotta talk dirty to it, call it names. Somebody has done head gaskets in the not too distant past. Looks pretty good, all things considered. It's got flat top pistons in it. But I'm guessing they're way down in the hole. I don't know where this is on its cycle, but I'm guessing there's a lot of in the hole depth here. And these actually are not terrible, to be honest with you. The ring ridge on this is not bad. You could probably clean this up with a hone, to be honest. It's a lot better shape than I thought it would. It is a reasonably low mileage motor. I think it's like a 70,000 mile motor, which isn't horrible. But yeah, not bad. Not bad. This is more for myself than for the rest of you guys, but taking the alternator connections apart, bolts wise, we have a 9/16 that goes through the top, we have a 9/16 that goes in this little piece here and this piece here. We're gonna leave one of those bolts on there. And then there's one little 9/16 bolt that's snuck in way back there in the back. Don't forget that one. And then this alternator should come off here, and then we can get this head off. Got it. Piece of cake. Motor is very, 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 very carboned. Very, very carboned. Yeah, no big deal. Push this thing back in the corner. We'll finish the tear down on that. Yeah, I was stuck on the back little tiny edge of the alternator there, but simple removal, no big thing. Time to run these over to PRI. Clean up a little bit first. I gotta say, anybody who's ever seen me do any work, that's all the mess I made. And that, I mean, that doesn't even count as a mess. For me, I'm getting good at this. Camshaft's probably the original camshaft, maybe. Or whatever.
They're dished a little bit. They're not mushrooms, so they're in pretty good shape.
So that's going to complete the teardown portion of this. I'm going to stash this back over there in the corner, at least for the day time, for the rest of the day.
Did the old copper gasket seal on the head gasket trick.
Yeah, on Felpros.
That was unnecessary.
So we're not going to tear this thing any further down. This is going to go over there in the corner. We'll get back to this here shortly, because I do need actually all the accessories and everything off this to go on the 451 to go in her Charger, which is still sitting back there in the backyard. But I don't need to tear any more of this down just yet. Whatever. It's actually really not that bad. You could probably clean this thing up, cut it a little bit, and run it. But why would you do that? If you're going to go 30 over or 20 over, there's not a lot of difference cost-wise in going 20 over versus going big over. Yeah, we're just going to do a $4.99 in it. But that's not what this episode's about. Come back later for that. Let's push this over there in the corner of forgetfulness. Let's go see Rob. Well, there you go. That was really quick, wasn't it? Yeah. They're just across the city. Welcome to Performance Research, Inc. We did a ton of motor work with these guys a long way back, kind of in the beginning of our YouTubiness. The Pontiac motor was built here. The Chevy motor that was in the Big Block Wars video was built here. We've done a lot of work with these guys. They built the 2J motor that's in the boosted Lexi. Lots and lots and lots and lots of work. We ran into a complication with a previous guy that used to work here who built the motor that's in that Mopar. And now that we are revisiting building that kind of a similar motor all over again, we're kind of going through those heads and seeing what's good, what's bad, what needs to be fixed, blah, 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 blah. So Rob, the owner of the business, wanted me to bring over these guys so we can compare a stock set with the other set. Now he's already done quite a bit of work here, and we're going to actually spin that into its own entire video as far as what's going on here. But these are the stock, or the set of heads that we originally had on that 451. Noticed some things that needed to be fixed, some things that weren't exactly the way they should have been, and then we complicated the matters based on the fact that the camshaft initially the setup was spec'd on a 1.5 rocker, ended up with a 1.6 rocker, and it created all sorts of problems. So these are the original heads. He has cleaned them up a little bit. He's decked the bottom of them a little bit, and he's still in the process of putting these back together again. But we wanted to bring over the stock guys that I just pulled off so we can compare a couple of things as far as keepers, retainers, that kind of stuff that are on these heads. I'm not sure if you guys are really interested in getting super in-depth on this kind of stuff. Let me know if you really want to kind of get involved in the whole how it works and all the machining side of things. They have a pretty impressive facility here. They've got all the machines you could possibly want, and they can do essentially everything. If you go back and look at some of the old engine building footage that we did it all here. You know, the valve job that was on that and all that stuff, that was all filmed here. And they have an engine dyno that's in the back to be able to test stuff with. So if you guys are interested in seeing this kind of stuff, I know it's a lot deeper, darker, more in the weeds kind of thing if you're getting into that specialty stuff as far as actual engine building goes. If you guys want to see this kind of stuff from us, definitely let me know, because we happen to have some people that can do that. All right, time to talk shop. We'll be back with you in a minute. All right, so I'm going to cut in, before we talk about any of this stuff, video of this motor running on the dyno, whatever it was, 2.5 years ago or so. So you guys who haven't seen this can see what we're talking about as far as what our issue is. So here you go, a dyno pull. You can hear and visually see where the motor no longer wanted to rev. It was getting to a point where it was just hitting, we would call it like a wall. It just did not want to rev any further. And we were round and round and round and round in circles as far as with that engine builder at that point in time, as far as why it was not revving and why it was unhappy of going past that. He could stay in the throttle and it would eventually rev past it, but it wouldn't make any more power, and it was very, very unhappy. So what we had initially had a conversation about was coil buying. And that's where we kind of originally had thought we were going to have a problem. Whatever. We have them now. We have the idea as far as what's going on. We actually know what happened, and we can actually visually show you how this works. So here is your head, your coil. So as your valve opens, this goes down, right? So push on, that goes down. Coil squishes down. So you have what we were running into. This is really hard to explain this.
Yeah, sure.
Here, this is Rob. He's going to show you how this works.
So these originally had an umbrella seal on them, and when the original person that worked for me did these heads, cut them for PC seals. But unfortunately, PC seals stick a little more vertically than the umbrella seals. So He cut them down for the PC seals, but unfortunately didn't cut them down far enough. And when the valves were fully opened, and I'll show you here. It's actually touching the top of the guide.
You see where that steel piece right there is sticking out below the bottom there.
So it wasn't even at full lift. These were making contact and preventing the valves from opening any further, and also creating nasty harmonics, and nothing good was happening from that. So when I took the heads apart, checked obviously installed heights, they were spot on, checked installed pressures, it was spot on, checked open pressure, spot on, and we probably had 200 thousandths lift to coil bind, which is way more than needed. So we started looking a little deeper, and we saw that this was probably creating the problem. So we went through and freshened the heads up, and we cut the chimneys down. I cut them down about 175 thousandths. So there shouldn't be any issue with these hitting the tops of the chimneys at this point.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. So, kind of one of those two things can't occupy the same space at the same time kind of things.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate this was an issue. It is what it is. The idea is to figure out what it was. Now we know for sure exactly what the problem was. And Rob and I have been talking for quite a while, and we want to be able to show kind of what these were truly capable of, because I do think we kind of cheated the Mopar on the Big Block Wars video, because I think these heads are going to be able to flow considerably better. And now that they've been refreshed, this is actually the other head. You can see it's nice, fresh resurfacing. Valves look all nice and pretty. The chimneys have been cut down. We've got everything figured out. So as far as the heads go, these things are pretty much ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, we can just figure out the retainer situation and keepers. The keepers are a little too big, so we're going to have to cut the keepers down a little bit because they're touching on the sides. And it's very unstable, even with spring pressure. So we're going to cut the size of the keepers down ever so slightly, so there's a little bit of a gap, and those should lock in a little better. And again, eliminate any harmonics going on up there.
What he's talking about here is, you can see this gap here. That's supposed to be there. What was happening is these keepers.
You can see it right here. I don't know if that shows up.
Yeah, you can see
even when they're in proper position, it's very loose.
And that's bad.
That's not good.
Look at that, fixing things, learning stuff. Like I said, this is pretty in-depth stuff. This is beyond what most people would ever really showcase on a automotive YouTube channel. But that's what these guys do. Their shop is full of really impressive race car stuff. It's not, you guys do a lot of really high performance stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like just kind of basic head rebuilds and stuff.
No, it's just part of the process. But yeah, we do a lot of, I would say more LS stuff than Mopar stuff. But
yeah,
we've got a Mopar blower motor we're putting together at the moment, and probably 20 LS motors we're working through the shop. A couple Ford 4-valve motors that we're doing.
Oh, you did.
And we even have a 67 Yanko original numbers matching motor that we're working on too. So.
Yeesh. Yike! I don't even want to think what that thing's worth.
I don't either.
So there we go. There's your update on the. I guess we're going to call this another Big Block Mopar build. It's going to end up being a 499 cubic inch stroker with these motorhome heads on it. We're going to see what this thing will do. We're going to put a very similar flat tappet camshaft in it, build it real similar to the way the other one was built, so that we're not cheating anything. We're going to make sure we get our compression to 9.5 to 1, where it's supposed to be. We can see these things and see where they are, because I have honestly no idea where these are. Yeah, and we're going to do all the math, and we're going to show all you the whole process. Like I said, if you guys want to see what they do, they're cool with me filming stuff over here. So we can show you how this whole process works. If you want to see the machining side of things, we can certainly show that. If you guys want to see it, cool. If not, just let me know. Anyway, that's it. Short little video. Interesting new project for us. I, again, have absolutely no idea what these are going to go in. I don't even have a vehicle to put this motor in yet. But we're going to build one, and we're going to do this, because it needs to be done. And we need to show resolution. It's been rattling around in the back of my head that I need to have this done, and I want to show the right way that this really should be able to run. So now we're doing it. There you go. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. We'll see you in the next one. There will be updates for this. I got to go back to the shop and start tearing apart that other motor, get it completely torn down, whatever. Lots more stuff ahead. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.